She said it like it was nothing. Like she was asking if I wanted cream in my coffee. We should take separate cars, she said, adjusting her earring in the hallway mirror. Just in case you want to leave early. Just in case. Like we were roommates going to the same lecture. Like I didn't already know she'd been dressing differently lately. A little more effort. A little more perfume. A little less of everything I used to recognize. I looked up from tying my shoes and met her reflection in the mirror. She didn't turn around. Just kept tugging at her bracelet like it was stuck. Her voice was smooth, too smooth. Practiced. I nodded. Yeah. Sure. That was what she expected. Agreement. Silence. Compliance. She smiled at the mirror like she'd just made a reasonable suggestion. Then she turned, gave me the usual quick kiss, barely lips, mostly air, and disappeared down the hallway. I stood there for a moment, laces still undone, wondering when it had started. The silence between us wasn't new. But this cold kind of choreography, it was recent. Something had shifted. Something small but final. And I hadn't said anything because saying something meant confronting the part of me that already knew. We'd been married 8 years. Long enough to collect patterns. Long enough to know when someone's changing the script. And today she'd rewritten the whole scene. By the time I finished getting ready, she was already gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I stepped outside and felt the emptiness before I saw it. The kind of stillness that makes a man second-guess everything. I buckled our son into the back seat. He was 8, too young to understand all of it, but old enough to notice when the air in a house gets thick. He watched me carefully, the way kids do when they don't have the words but feel the storm coming anyway. "Mom already leave?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. He didn't say anything else, just looked out the window as we pulled out. The drive was quiet. Not the kind of peaceful quiet I used to love. This was something heavier. Waited. I kept catching glimpses of him in the rearview mirror, his face still, eyes thoughtful. He'd always been sensitive. Intuitive. More like me than I like to admit. Halfway there, just as the silence started to become unbearable, he leaned forward slightly. "Dad." His voice was low. Almost unsure. "Yeah, buddy?" He hesitated, then reached into his pocket. "I found this in the laundry. In Mom's coat." He held it out, small white plastic. I glanced down and felt my stomach pull tight. A hotel key card. Room number 418 written on it in blue pen. Beneath it, one name. Ryan. I took it from his hand slowly. My fingers didn't tremble, not yet. "Where'd you find this exactly?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "In the inside pocket. Thought it might be important." I nodded, swallowing something hard. "Thanks. Good eye." He leaned back again, satisfied he'd done something helpful. But I knew that whisper in his voice. It wasn't pride. It was worry. I stared at the road ahead. I could have stayed on the route to the party. Driven to her parents' house, smiled through my teeth, clinked glasses with people who'd ask where she was. But I didn't. I turned off the highway at the next exit. "Thought you said it was that way," he said, pointing out the window. "Yeah," I replied, managing a small smile. "I think I took a wrong turn." He didn't question me after that. Smart kid. He gets that from me. The hotel sat just past a gas station, tucked behind a chain-link fence and a row of half-dead palm trees. One of those places that doesn't ask questions if you pay in cash. Beige walls. Old signage. Nothing memorable, which is exactly what people look for when they want to disappear for a while. I circled the parking lot once before pulling around to the back. The sun was starting to lower, casting long shadows across the asphalt. I could feel the tension building in my jaw, like something grinding itself down to bone. "Stay here," I told my son gently, putting the car in park. He looked at me with that same silent trust. "Okay." I stepped out and shut the door quietly. The engine hummed behind me like a warning I didn't want to hear. In my pocket, the key card felt heavier than it should have. I stared at it as I walked, white plastic with blue ink and a name I'd never heard her say out loud. Ryan. Room 418. The elevator creaked as it rose, old cables groaning under time. It smelled like bleach and something metallic like regret had a scent. I didn't move as it climbed, just stood with my hands in my pockets, staring at the flickering floor numbers like they could count down the moment my life shifted. 4th floor. A long hallway. Thin carpet. Dim lights. Room 418 was down at the far end, just past the ice machine. I stopped in front of it. My heart didn't pound. My breath didn't catch. I felt still. Like my body had already accepted what my mind refused to. I raised my hand and knocked once. Not loud. Just enough. Pause. Then movement. The door clicked, open 2 inches. He stood there. Tall. Mid-30s. Button-down shirt half undone. His hair was messy in a way that wasn't accidental. Bare feet on the carpet. For a second he just looked at me, confused, blank, like I was a lost delivery guy or someone from housekeeping. Then his eyes caught mine. Something in his face changed. Behind him I heard laughter. Her laughter. Light spilled through the cracked curtain, outlining her silhouette on the bed. Legs crossed, arm raised, probably still holding a drink. I didn't have to see her face to know she was smiling. The sound was unmistakable. It used to be mine. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice cautious now. Controlled. She called out from the room. "Ryan? Who is it?" I didn't speak. I didn't move. And in that moment I saw everything I needed to. The flicker of guilt in his eyes. The way his shoulders stiffened. The way he slowly, quietly closed the door without another word. I didn't stop him. I didn't knock again. I turned and walked back down the hallway. The elevator ride down was quiet, like the building was holding its breath with me. When I got back to the car, my son was still in the back seat, flipping through one of his comic books. He looked up, searching my face, but didn't ask anything. Didn't need to. "Ready to go?" I asked. He nodded. "Can we stop for ice cream on the way?" "Yeah," I said, starting the engine. "Let's do that." We drove past the hotel without another glance. That night, she came home a little after 10. I was on the couch, TV on mute. She walked in like nothing had happened. Makeup intact. Hair freshly combed. Not a wrinkle in her dress. "Sorry it went late," she said, dropping her purse on the table. I nodded. "No problem." She smiled, kissed my cheek. Her lips lingered just long enough to leave a trace of the lie. "You should have come," she added. "They asked about you." "I'll make it next time," I said. And we both knew I wouldn't. He fell asleep quickly that night, like she always did after a lie. I lay beside her in the dark, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan turning lazy circles above us. Her breathing was soft, even. One leg tossed over the blanket like she didn't have a care in the world. Like she hadn't just slipped out of another man's bed and back into mine. I didn't speak. Didn't move. Just listened to the quiet hum of everything that used to feel like home. The next morning she was up early. Showered. Bright. Smiling. She hummed in the kitchen while making coffee, asked me if I wanted eggs. I said no. She packed our son's lunch like always, double-checked his backpack, kissed his forehead twice. No trace of guilt. No nervous glances. She had perfected the art of pretending. But I had perfected something else, watching in silence. After I dropped our son off at school, I returned home and went straight to my office. Closed the door. Locked it. Opened the drawer where I kept an old phone I hadn't touched in months. I'd cloned hers almost a year ago. Not because I suspected anything then, but because some part of me had always known people don't change overnight. They shift. Slowly. Quietly. Like rot beneath paint. I powered it on, and within seconds her messages synced. Hundreds of them. Thousands. All neatly categorized under hidden folders she thought no one would find. There he was. Ryan. No last name. Just emojis, code words, burner numbers. But the meaning was always clear. I read them in silence. Photos at restaurants I'd never heard her mention. Messages like, "Miss you already. Can't wait for the next excuse. He doesn't even look at me anymore." Conversations about me. My habits. My flaws. Cold. Disconnected. Distant. She wasn't wrong. I had become those things. But I hadn't stopped loving her. I had stopped trusting her. And trust is the artery of affection. Once it's cut, everything else bleeds out. I read for over an hour. My chest didn't tighten. My eyes didn't blur. I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt everything at once and my body just chose silence. Then I found the photos. A selfie taken in that same hotel room. Her half covered in sheets. Him shirtless beside her, grinning. The timestamp matched the party night. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the desk. I didn't flinch. Later that afternoon, while she was out grocery shopping, I opened a drawer in the bathroom and pulled out a test I'd been holding off on for years. Something I never had the courage to do until now. A DNA kit. Our son was everything to me. The way he looked up at me when he was scared. The quiet wisdom behind his eyes. The way he always knew when I needed a hand on my shoulder even if I didn't ask. But now I had to know. One swab from me. One from him. 3 days. That night, she curled into my side like nothing was wrong. Her hand found mine under the blanket. I let it. She kissed my shoulder. I didn't turn to her. "Everything okay?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She smiled, content with that. Rolled over and fell asleep. And I lay there wide awake, listening to her breathe. 3 days. That's all it would take to confirm if the last 8 years of my life were built on something real, or if I'd been raising a lie with someone else's eyes. The envelope came on a Wednesday. Plain white. No logo. No markings. Just my name typed in block letters across the front. I stared at it on the porch for a while before picking it up. It looked so ordinary, like a bill or a coupon flyer, but it felt like it weighed 100 pounds in my hands. I didn't open it right away. I walked inside, locked the door behind me, and went straight to my office. Sat down. Closed the blinds. The silence in the house felt thick, like it was waiting with me. I placed the envelope on the desk in front of me, untouched, like it might change if I gave it a few more minutes. But it didn't. Truth doesn't change when you're not ready for it. Just waits. I slid a letter opener under the flap, careful and slow, like I was diffusing something dangerous. Pulled the papers out. Read the words twice before they made any sense. Probability of paternity, 0%. I stared at that number. I kept thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they labeled something wrong. Maybe they swapped the samples. I checked the names. The barcodes. Everything matched. Not mine. Not even close. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, letting the truth settle in like dust on glass. He's not mine. The boy who runs to me when he's scared. The one who colors cards for me on Father's Day. The one who memorized my footsteps so he could sneak up behind me and yell, "Boo!" with a grin wide enough to stop my heart. He's not mine. But my hands still remember the weight of him when he was just a baby. My shoulder still knows the shape of his head when he fell asleep on it. My voice was the one that read him stories and calmed his nightmares. He might not be my blood, but I had bled for him in 1,000 silent ways. I folded the results slowly and slid them into the inside pocket of my jacket. Not to hide them, but to carry them. Like a loaded truth I wasn't ready to fire yet. That night I made dinner. Her favorite, rosemary chicken, mashed potatoes with garlic, the salad she always asked for. I lit candles. Played her music in the background, soft and low. Everything looked perfect. Romantic. Normal. She walked in surprised. Smiled wide, almost touched. "Well, this is unexpected," she said, putting her purse down. I smiled back. Not because I felt anything, but because I wanted to see what a liar looked like when they thought they were safe. After dinner, when the plates were cleared and the wine glasses half empty, I pulled the envelope from my pocket and placed it on the table between us. No words. Just that white shape between us like a blade. Her smile faltered. Her hand hovered. She looked at me, waiting for a cue. I didn't give her one. She picked it up slowly. Opened it. Read the top line. Then the second. Then all of it. Her hands started to tremble. Her lips parted like she was about to say something, but no sound came out. Finally, she looked at me, really looked at me, and whispered, "I can explain." I nodded. Not in agreement. Just in acknowledgement of noise. That's all her voice was now, noise. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. Slowly. Like I was done lending her anything, even touch. Still, I didn't yell. Didn't ask who or when or why. I didn't need to. I already knew. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table, screen unlocked. Opened to her messages with Ryan. Text. Photos. Hotel confirmations. Time stamps. Her face collapsed in real time. "I saw you," I said finally. My voice was quiet. Firm. One wrong turn. That's all it took. She started to cry. Hands over her mouth. Shoulders shaking. But crying isn't remorse. It's panic with a prettier dress on. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said through the tears. I looked at her calmly. "You meant it every time you lied." She stood up, trying to reach for me. I stood too, but took a single, clean step back. Enough distance to say everything I didn't want to repeat. Then I said the one thing she never expected. "He's not mine. But I'll raise him like he is. Because you don't deserve him." She collapsed back into the chair like something had been cut loose inside her. No more words. No more tears. Just the sound of her breathing and the quiet between us. And then I turned and walked away. No door slam. No final speech. Just distance. Cold and absolute. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of anger. That part had burned out long ago. What kept me awake was clarity. The kind that stings. The kind that leaves you raw, not because you didn't see it coming, but because deep down you always did. She stayed downstairs. Maybe on the couch. Maybe in our son's room. I didn't care. She didn't try to follow me when I walked out earlier. Didn't scream or beg or chase. She just crumbled into herself like she knew, really knew, that it was over. In the morning I got up early, made breakfast like I always did. Pancakes, a little syrup on the side, strawberries the way our son liked. He padded into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Where's Mom?" he asked, voice groggy. I paused at the skillet. "Sleeping in," I said. "Rough night." He nodded, accepted it. Kids know more than we think. He didn't press. Just sat down and started eating. I watched him. Studied every line of his face like it was a painting I'd missed something in. His eyes were wide and curious, nothing like mine. His laugh was lighter, freer. His hair curled at the ends, another man's genetics, but somehow in the soft light of our kitchen, none of it mattered. Later that day while he was at school she tried to talk. Tried to walk into my space like the air between us hadn't solidified into something impossible to cross. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she started. I didn't look up. I was folding laundry. "Come." Focused. She stepped closer. "But I love him. And I didn't know how to live with all the lies anymore." I finally looked at her. Not the way I used to. Not with pain or longing or confusion. Just stillness. You didn't lie to protect him, I said. You lied to protect yourself. From the consequences. From reality. From facing what you did every time you looked me in the eye. She blinked. Tears welled again, but I didn't move. I tried to stop, she said softly. But you didn't, I replied. You stopped getting caught. There's a difference. Silence again. Not the healing kind. The kind that spreads like frost. I don't want to lose him, she whispered. He's my whole world. You already lost him, I said. You just haven't seen it yet. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the hotel key card. The one he found. She placed it on the table like it was proof of something more than guilt. I kept it. I didn't know why, she said. Maybe I wanted to get caught. I nodded slowly. You did. You just didn't think I'd be the one holding the card. She sat down in the chair across from me like her legs gave up. Her eyes were rimmed red, face pale. I could see the woman I married, somewhere buried under all the deception and pretense. But she wasn't coming back. That version of her was gone. And maybe she never existed. There was a time you looked at me like I was your entire world, she said. There was a time you were, I replied. But the moment you handed that to someone else, you stopped being mine. The clock ticked on the wall behind her, each sound more final than the last. A slow, steady reminder that everything moves forward, even when people stay stuck. She asked finally, so what now? I folded the last shirt and placed it on the pile. You leave, I said. I'm not throwing you out. I'm asking you to walk away with whatever dignity you still have left. And I'll raise him. You can be in his life, but not like before. Not here. Not like this. She swallowed hard, lips trembling. And us. There is no us, I said gently. There's you. There's me. And there's a boy who needs stability. You'll decide who you're going to be to him. But as for me, I'm done being your shadow. I didn't yell. Didn't threaten. I didn't need to. Because real endings don't come with fire. They come with clarity. And this was mine. She packed that evening. Quietly. No shouting. No dramatic goodbyes. Just the slow rustle of clothes into a suitcase that looked too small to carry the weight of what she'd broken. Our son sat in the living room, cartoons playing, not really watching. He kept glancing down the hallway where she moved like a ghost. He didn't ask where she was going. He didn't need to. Kids know. They always know. She came to the doorway before she left. Stood there, looking like she had something to say but couldn't find the words. I waited. Gave her space to speak. But she just lowered her eyes and whispered, "Thank you for everything." I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because some things don't deserve an answer. Not anymore. The door closed behind her with a softness that felt permanent. Like a breath you don't realize you've been holding until it's gone. I stood there for a long time. Eventually, I sat beside my son on the couch. He looked up at me, small and quiet and a little braver than I expected. "Is Mom coming back?" he asked. I thought about lying. About telling him she just needed time, that she'd be back soon, that everything was okay. But lies were what got us here. I wasn't going to add another layer to that pile. "No," I said gently. "She's not." He didn't cry. Just looked down at his hands for a moment, thinking. Then he asked, "Are we still okay?" I nodded and pulled him close. "Yeah, buddy. We're okay. We're always going to be okay." And he leaned into me, head against my side. We stayed like that while the cartoons flickered, the light from the TV dancing across the room like nothing had changed. But everything had. Over the next few days I started clearing out the old, rearranged furniture. Took down the framed wedding photo in the hallway. Left the one of the three of us at the park, because even if the story was a lie, the moment wasn't. I started cooking again. Real meals. Taught him how to crack eggs and mix batter without getting half of it on the floor. I learned how to do ponytails on school mornings and how to fake excitement about homework I didn't understand. He made it easier. Just by being there. Just by not asking for more than I could give. Some nights I still heard echoes. Her laugh. Her voice. Her footsteps in the hall. But they were only echoes now, memories without weight. Shadows without shapes. I kept the DNA results in my drawer. Not because I needed reminding, but because some truths deserve to be honored quietly. Like gravestones. You don't visit them every day, but you never forget where they are. One Saturday weeks later, I found the hotel key card again, tucked between papers in a drawer. I held it between my fingers. Room 418. Right. That stupid blue ink. I thought about throwing it away, but I didn't. Instead, I walked to the backyard, lit the fire pit, and dropped it in. Watched it curl, blacken, vanish. Closure isn't loud. It doesn't come with apologies or revenge. It comes in the form of a quiet boy leaning against your shoulder while the world resets itself. It comes when you make pancakes on a Sunday morning and no one asks where she is. It comes when you realize you haven't thought about her in days and it feels like breathing again. She thought driving separately meant freedom. She thought it gave her space to live a second life. She didn't realize it was the first step toward losing the one she already had. I didn't chase her. I didn't fight her. I didn't scream or beg. I just watched her drive away. And I never looked back. Like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories.